Hello, everybody. We're gathered here for another session of mindfulness for beginners in English. It is actually the 152nd session, and today is 5th October 2024. I would like to warmly welcome Venerable Homagama Dhamma Kusala Thero for this session. I'd also like to welcome everyone who's participating via Facebook live stream, and also those who are present today at this Zoom meeting. Our program will usually commence with a session of in-session practice of mindfulness, which will be followed by a talk on today's topic by Bhante, and then it will be followed by the question and answers and reports that were sent to us today. We will then present them to Bhante and get his feedback and give you a chance to ask questions. So to begin the session, let me invite Venerable Bhante to start the mindfulness practice. Over to you, Bhante.
Sonali, you can hear me, right?
Yes, we can hear you now, Bhante.
Okay. Hello, everyone. So today, let's start with a small activity, which is related to the mindfulness practice. For this, you need to gather something that you can eat. Maybe a cookie or a biscuit or something. So we'll give you 2 minutes to quickly gather something. Are we ready? Okay, right. So it's better if you can turn on video so we can see and join more actively. And this activity is basically practicing mindfulness in our day-to-day lives. And today's topic, we can relate somewhat into today's topic, right? So you have something that you can eat now. Take it to your palms and just feel the texture and shape, weight, all those details. It would be easier if you can just simply close your eyes for a moment. So we are basically experimenting with the tactile sensation. So you can feel the shape, the texture, maybe even temperature differences. Then we'll try and observe with our eyes. What's the color, the shape, and how we identify this. It's good to take a moment to really observe what is that we are going to eat. Usually we don't take that much of time paying attention to our food. Instead, we usually are in a rush. Then maybe the smell. Is it a single smell that we identify as something? Or is it a combination of few things? That too we can observe. Now, can you see or can you feel a difference inside you when you experiment with this food? And what's the difference that you feel within you when you do this experiment? Anybody who would like to share? Yes, go ahead.
I think I've lost interest in trying it now.
Okay.
Yeah, kept seeing what in general people say as imperfections of this piece of apple, on the skin, the dots and few marks and yeah, so the activity is taking a bit of time and that urge to want to eat it, it's becoming desensitized now. I'm just not that interested in trying it. I will at some point when you say, but yeah, so the interest is reducing. And the
Okay.
smell, like you say, whether it was one thing or a collection of things.
Yep. So that's a good observation. We have this urge, right? We as soon as we see something, we get our plate, we start eating. But when we do the mindfulness practice, we try to, take a pause and simply take few seconds to observe. Maybe the texture, color, and the smell even, those things you can observe. And you can see what is happening to the desire within. The urge to consume this, the urge to eat this. And we can see sometimes even our physical body changes. There are reactions in our body, physical reactions for the food that's in front of us, right? So this way, we are usually in a rush. But when we practice mindfulness, we try to, take our time and simply see what is happening, simply notice what is happening. So that will reveal the true nature of things, right? We can relate your idea to that. When you take your time and, observe, when you take your time and stay with the desire or the urge, it is not so strong after all, right? So that's the very practice that we are doing, even when it comes to our emotions, thoughts. We are not in a hurry. Instead, we simply take our time. And when you take your time with the emotions, thoughts, after a while you realize it is not that big of a deal. Like what happened to your urge or desire. You are no longer that interested in consuming that, right? Same goes for the other things as well. Usually the ignorance, it runs with this urge. There's this urge that is called the darkness. That is the ignorance, right? So we take our time and the light comes. Light comes, wisdom appears. And when wisdom appears, when light comes, it is not so strong after all. All those desires, all those emotions, thoughts, they are not so strong, right? So that is the very practice that we are doing. Not only when we are eating something, but even our emotions, thoughts, we are not in a rush. We don't give in to the urge. Instead, we take some time and simply let them be. And after a while, you realize they are not so strong. You don't have to, follow every thought or every emotion that is appearing in your mind. So that's a very nice observation, which we can relate to the practice of mindfulness as well. Any other comments, ideas? What is happening in you when you do this observation? Maybe a physical reaction, maybe the desire. Panchani, you wanna tell
Yeah,
something?
I was going to say something because I am a vegetarian, I'm a vegan. I don't drink milk. So for the first time, I actually smelled the milk in my favorite cookie. And there was such a repulsion of eating it now.
So your favorite cookie is ruined
Yes. Thank you.
because you took time with it. Yeah, that's the thing. Yes, Ashini, muted.
So, Aminhansa, when I took the biscuit to my hand, at the moment I wanted to eat it. But as you asked me to observe it, I took it to the hand and turned it to side and observed, and saliva secreted into my mouth. But after observing for a long time, you didn't give permission to eat. Then my desire declined.
Yeah, still no permission given to eat, right? So that very observation we do. I think Rajika took a bite or something. Secretly, she started with a bite. I could see that she's chewing something while doing the observation. That's another way to satisfy your desires, I guess.
Avasara Bhante, no, I didn't have a bite during the activity. I had a pistachio before we start the program, so it's still in my mouth. So I was biting that while experiencing this pistachio. So yeah, just as the other said, because you asked me, I feel like when he's giving us a permission, doing all these things, I was thinking, it's just a tiny piece of pistachio, but when he's giving the permission and no permission given, so I kind of lost the interest of eating this too at the end. I noticed that.
Maybe you lost the interest because of the food that you already had in your mouth, right?
Yeah.
Okay, right. So those are the observations. Physical reactions are there. Saliva, mouth become watery. That's one thing. Then the desire to consume this, the desire to eat this. Usually when we do this with the children, it's torture. They have something in their hand that they usually eat in a rush. Now they have to observe it. They take their time with it, few minutes. So for them, it's torture, right? And it takes so much effort for them to somehow do the activity without giving in to that desire, right? So that's something. Okay, now we'll break a small piece with our fingers. Try to see which fingers are used in this. Maybe the opposable thumb is used, right? I don't know whether apples you can break with. It might be difficult. If it's difficult, you can take a bite probably with the. Okay, now you'll have a small piece in your hand, right? You observed how it was broken. What are the fingers that used and how the force was applied. Now we'll put it in our mouth, put it on top of your tongue, and wait for a while without trying to chew. Yeah, you can put it on your tongue and close your mouth and just observe for a while what is happening within you. Now slowly start consuming, chewing the food. Take your time with it. Notice how the teeth and tongue, how they are supporting the process. And when it is more like a liquid, you can swallow. We wait till it becomes a liquid inside our mouth for us to swallow it. You can notice the different taste that you experience, different textures. All those observations would be there. If that piece is done, then you can break another piece with your teeth. That too we are going to consume slowly, mindfully noticing the taste, the texture, the process in your mouth. Sometimes you can even hear the sound of your own food in your mouth, probably, grinding, chewing. That sound even you can hear. So those observations are there. Then whatever the remaining, you can finish it. Take your time, mindfully. We'll try to consume the remaining part. Okay, so that's the activity. And if you like to share anything else that you observed, we can take few minutes.
Hi, Bhante. Hope I can share. I didn't realize how much of a lot of processes are involved in this biting process, chewing and grinding process, with the teeth breaking it, and then obviously all the glands are active at the same time. Different glands doing different kind of, I don't know, flavors are tasted at the back of my mouth and then the front, and then different kind of like a slightly bitter something was released from my mouth, and I could see that it was giving me a different texture altogether, and the tongue was so busy pushing it this way and that way, getting the teeth to grind it down, and then the teeth grinding it down and making a paste of it. And even after swallowing, the tongue was looking for little pieces stuck between the teeth and taking it out to further grind it down. So I didn't actually break it down into this kind of details before, but observed it now.
Yeah, when you see these details, you become, grateful for your body. How complicated the processes are, and how fine-tuned it is. All these things are happening. It's like the body is programmed, but it's good to pay attention. When you pay attention, you feel gratitude towards this complicated machine that we are using, our body, right? It's the most finest machine you can ever find. There's nothing better, right? So these processes are so complicated and, exactly fine-tuned. Another thing is that this is a basic thing of our survival. This involves our survival. So food, when it comes to food, that's one thing that will decide our survival, right? The hunger, how much influence hunger has on you, you can see, right? So those things are, it's good to, observe. It's good to bring awareness, especially when it comes to food. Those things are, like basic processes or basic markers of mankind. This is how people survive. This is what they need, right? Even there's this picture or a photo from NASA. They have sent it out to universe, into the space, right? The idea is to introduce mankind to the extraterrestrial, right? That's the idea, right? So they have this one photo which will show the different processes that's involved in eating, consuming. You can go and find it, right? So even according to Dhamma, there are 4 ways of consuming food, right? 4 ways, right? So first one is, biting a piece off. So it's usually the front teeth is used. Then second one is grinding, chewing, right? So those 2 are 2 different processes. Let's say a piece of that apple, you break it off first, then you grind it, right? So those 2 are shown in that photo. Then you drink something, right? So that's also shown in that photo. Then you lick things like ice cream. That's how you consume, right? So those 4 processes are involved in eating. And even today's world, they have identified it. Even to introduce mankind, they have sent it out to the universe, out to the space, showing that this is how the people survive. And in Dhamma, in the teachings, these 4 processes are explained, right? So that this is the basics of survival. We are consuming this food. That's how we survive. That's one thing of our survival. So it's good to see these details, good to observe these details. Anything else that's worth mentioning? This is a
Bhante, I have, Avasarයි Bhante, I have heard Loku Swamin Wahanse explaining liquids also to keep it in your mouth for a long period, and I tried it. Particularly when I used to like fizzy drinks so much, and I used to do the practice of keeping it in the mouth for a long time, and then when all the tastes were gone, I would swallow it, and that helped me to. Now I don't drink them at all, so that was helpful for me.
Yeah, that's good practice. Now, I think there's this quote or something from Mahatma Gandhi. He's saying, drink all the solids, right? He's saying, drink all the solids and chew the liquids. That's what he's saying, right? Usually, the solids, we don't grind it enough till it becomes a liquid. We don't do it usually, right? We just gulp it down in the solid form. So he's saying that drink all the solids. It means that keep it in your mouth. Make sure that it is a liquid before it is swollen, right? So that's one thing. Then usually the liquids, we don't keep it in our mouth. We just, directly put it towards our throat. That's how we drink, right? But it says just better to keep it in your mouth and, like biting, just feel it, just taste it, right? So that quote is from, I think, Mahatma Gandhi. He mentioned it. And in our mindfulness practice also, we take our time and slow down the process. And when you slow down, you can really see the desire, right? That's the important part. There's desire involved in these processes. It goes under the shadow of ignorance. So it's better to, practice awareness. And when that happens, you can see what the desires are. No other comments? I think we are past our time as well. Then we'll finish the activity for today. And this one really you can practice in your life, right? Every day, maybe with the snacks, maybe like 4 or 5 times at least, you eat things. Except for the drinks even, drink, if you count the drinks, maybe like 10 or so drinks and 4 or 5 meals, snacks that you will consume in a day. So they are short time periods which you can really practice mindfulness. And in the talk, we'll discuss more details about this. Okay, with that, Sonali, you can take over.
Thank you, Bhante. So next, leading up to our next agenda, next in the agenda is the talk on mindfulness. And this week's topic is moderation. So I think we paved the way perfectly for that with Bhante's exercise that he gave us. Over to you, Bhante. I invite Bhante to start the talk on today's topic.
Thanks. So today we have a fresh topic. And this is a very nice, analogy towards the practice. And this one is from Stoicism, right? If you have heard, maybe you have heard it. So these quotes are from Stoicism, and they explain in a way how to deal with life, how to practice moderation in life, right? So that's the quote that's in today's poster. It says, remember that you must treat or you must behave in life as at a dinner party, right? So that's the quote that's in today's poster. You must treat life or behave in life as at a dinner party. What's the idea behind this, right? Now, let's say you are at a dinner party, you are seated, and certain plates, certain curries and stuff like that are passed around. That's the analogy that they are giving. So if anything is brought to you, then you can consume, you can partake in moderation, right? If anything is brought to you, if any plate, any dish is brought to you, you can partake, you can consume in moderation, right? If anything passes by without stopping at your place or without stopping at you, just let it go. If anything passes by without stopping, just let it go, right? If anything is not come yet, don't stretch your hand towards it. That's the idea that's given, right? So whatever that's brought to you, you can partake in moderation. If any plate passes by, then don't try to stop it. Let it go. Sometimes it will come around, right? Then if a plate is not yet come to you, then just don't stretch your hand towards it. That's the idea that's given. So you must deal with life as you are at a dinner party. That's the quote that's given in Stoicism. I think the person is Epictetus or something like that. I'm having a hard time pronouncing it. I think it's Epictetus, right? So you can read into it, but this is a very nice quote that will teach us how to deal with life, right? In life also, certain things are easily brought to us. So those things, when they are brought to us, of course, we can consume, we can partake in moderation. Whatever that is brought to you, you don't have to, refuse it. You don't have to reject it. Instead, just accept and, according to your wishes, according to your requirement, you can consume it, right? And if something passes by, it's not stopping. It passes by. So don't try to stop it. Sometimes even certain things come and go like that, right? It's not stopping. You don't have to, try to stop it. Instead, let it go. Let it go. It might come around, right? Then let's say if something is yet to arrive, don't try to stretch your hand towards it. Instead, give it some time. It might arrive, right? So that type of idea is very much valued, not only for consuming meals, but even dealing with people and things of the world. When you deal with people, sometimes, you try to stretch your hand and, try to reach them. Try to make them a part of your life, which is mostly, it's not gonna work. You can't force people to spend time with you. You can't force people to, be a part of your life. That's not the way. Instead, they have to come naturally. They have to come, right? So that way you have to behave. Let's say if somebody is, trying to leave, it's better to let them or give them their freedom. If you give them their freedom, there's a chance that they might return one day. But if you try to, forcefully make them stay, then you'll ruin it forever, maybe, right? So those things, I know it is hard. It is hard. We are emotional. We are struggling. We feel sad, anger. Those emotions are there. Those thoughts are there. But if we know the practice, if we know the proper way, then we can find a way. At least we know that we are doing something that is not accurate. That is not the way it should be. At least if we know that, then we'll be protected, right? So you can see it is dealing with the desires of our mind. It is dealing with our thoughts, emotions, and somehow making sure that we are facing life in a balanced way, right? The things or the people or whatever, we should consume in moderation. We shouldn't indulge in anything. Let it be people or let it be, things we should consume in moderation. That is the very idea. Even people, we shouldn't indulge in them. Now, yesterday somebody came to me and, he was sharing his experience and how the practice has changed him. He was saying that, he's dealing with his family members, he's dealing with his girlfriend, and still he don't feel that much indulgence in the process. He don't feel that much attached emotionally to them. Earlier he was, but practice has changed him. So he's saying sometimes, I am doing the necessary things. I do my part, but I am not emotionally dependent on them, right? You can be dependent into a certain level, but not to a level that will destroy you. Because the people, the things, there's this end, impending end, right? That's how the things are. That's how the world is. Whoever that's in your life, there's this ending. You have to separate from them. Whatever the properties, things that you have in your life, there's this ending. You have to separate from them, right? Always there's this ending. You can't avoid that. You can't deny that. Either it will be you dying, maybe somebody else dying. There's this separation, right? The things might destroy, get broken, or one day you'll have to leave them, right? So that way we can use things, we can deal with people, we can make them a part of our life, but we have to make sure that we are dealing in moderation. That is important, right? Even consuming food, if you don't know the moderation, then you might get sick. Food is a great cause of sickness, right? Whatever the things that you are consuming, whatever the things that you are eating, depending on them, you'll get a certain kind of a sickness or something, right? Let's say on the table you have so many dishes, so many type of food, but the plate will represent you, right? The table is more like the world. The plate is your selection out of it, right? So there's so many things in the world, so many things in the dinner table, but the whatever that's on your plate, that is your unique nature. That is your selection, right? So the things that we select, let's say some people, they prefer sweet, right? If you consume too much sweet, what will happen? Some people, they prefer other taste, right? Different taste are there, no? I think according to Indian way, I think there are 6 types: bitter, sour, sweet, salt, then umami, right? Savory taste, right? So different tastes are there. So depending on your nature, you will be attracted to a certain taste. You'll consume that in larger quantities. So depending on that, you'll get a certain type of a sickness maybe later in life, right? So these things you can see how they are related to your health. Even the digestion, it starts in your mouth, not in the stomach, right? So if you don't take enough time with your food, then that initial step is not followed properly. It directly goes into the stomach and you don't get to, go through the parts in your mouth, necessary digestion steps there. Even the digestion, it helps if you are mindful, right? Then you can select the proper types and proper quantity as well. Apart from that, you'll feel lot of details and taste while consuming, right? So this way, it is good to practice mindfulness. And if you practice mindfulness, you will know the moderation in the process. Usually we are unmindful. We talk with people. Maybe we sit in front of a TV. Without knowing, we gulp down few plates even, right? So that way it won't work. You have to be mindful. Mindfully, you are consuming. When you consume mindfully, you'll know what is the proper portion, and you'll feel the taste much better. So your desires will be satisfied into a certain level because you are eating mindfully. Usually we feel taste with the quantity. Why? Because our minds are distracted. We have to eat a larger quantity in order to feel the taste. But if you take even a small part of food, if you consume it slowly, mindfully, then you can feel a whole lot of taste in it, right? So this way, we are mindfully eating, and in the process, we get to notice all these details, and even more deeper into the practice, you get to experiment with your desires. Now, earlier I mentioned how hard it is to keep it in your hand, experimenting without consuming. You are experimenting. You can't consume. You observe the food, you notice the smell, but you can't consume. So you can feel this urge, right? That urge is there, that desire is there in you, right? So when we are mindful, we experiment with the desires. We try to, somehow stay with the desire without giving in. That is what we are doing. Now, if you search on YouTube probably, you can find this very nice, it's called the marshmallow test, right? It's done with little children. Okay, so you let them sit somewhere in front of a table or something. Then on top of that table, there's this plate and there is a marshmallow, right? So the message is that the parent or the adult, that person is saying, you have to wait till I come. You can't consume. I'll go out for a minute and I'll come back, right? So you wait. That's the idea given. That is how the instructions are given. And the person, the adult, he leaves the room, right, for a minute. And this little child, he's, torture. It's torture for him, right? He's struggling. He's looking at the food. He's smelling it, Still, he can't consume. And some children, the most of them, they give in. They consume at a certain point. And when the adult comes, the food is gone or the marshmallow is gone, right? Once in a while, a kid survives. They are able to somehow survive their desires and, wait till the proper time. And if they wait, they are awarded another marshmallow, right? So the kid gets to consume 2 if he waited. That is the very idea. And they have done this experiment. And later in life, they have realized the children who are able to, withstand their desires and wait for a minute, they do better in life. Not the ones that give in to their desires, right? So later in the research, they found out that children who were able to pass the marshmallow test, they would do better in life. That is the idea. And one kid was interviewed, and he was asked, how did you survive? What did you do? And the child is saying, I stopped thinking about it, right? I didn't keep thinking about it. I paid my attention to something else. That was his trick. With that trick, he survived that crucial 1 minute, right? So that is the experiment, a marshmallow test, right? So you can see how it's a play with our desires. Even for a little child, it's like a monkey, right, in front of a marshmallow, right? So it's really hard, of course, but some are able to survive it. Some are able to, somehow withstand that desire and wait for a minute. And that is an indication of how successful that child would be in life. That's the funny thing, That means we shouldn't be giving in to our desires. It's not a matter of that. Instead we have to somehow practice moderation. Practice moderation. And that very process is the process towards success in life. And when you really practice with your desires, you can see how those desires are basically deceiving you. One moment you have this urge to eat this, and after a while it is not so pressing, right? Within a minute or so it happens. What happens is usually we give in at the first sight of our desires, we give in. And you don't get to see the remaining part. You don't get to experience the remaining part. And you come and say, I can't survive my desires. They are so strong. I give in all the time. But if you wait for a while, if you observe it mindfully, then you realize that those desires, those thoughts, they are not so strong, right? So you can see how this is a play with our desires. We have to stay for a while with them and see what happens to them, right? It's okay to stay with them. Most people think that the way is to get rid of them. That is their idea. They think that, I have to get rid of these thoughts. I have to get rid of these desires. That way we think, that way we deal usually. But that's not the way. It is human to have those thoughts. It is human to have those desires. Right? We all have them. It is our very nature. So that's okay. It's okay to have them. But what is important is that just, don't give in. Instead, simply observe them mindfully for a while. After a minute or so, you can even give in. You can consume. We are not against, consuming things. Even like today's quote, we consume in moderation. We are not refraining from consuming. Instead, we consume, but in moderation, right? Those desires also, you have to find the proper balance. It's always a balancing act. You have to deal with this world. You have to live in this world. You have to talk to people, earn all those things you can do. Not a problem. But you have to find that proper balance. It's not about totally refraining. It's not about indulging. Instead, there is a unique balance that works for each of us. The balance I can't show as the middle point, that's not the way. Instead, there's a unique balance that works for each of us. So only you can find it, because you are the person who knows your nature. You are the person who knows your desires. You are the person who knows what went wrong in the history, right? So in the practice of mindfulness, with the help of mindfulness, you can find this proper balance that works for you. And that will be a unique balance that is identical for you. It won't work for somebody else. Most people, they get it wrong because they think that balance is same to everybody. They try to copy the teacher. They try to copy other people. And they try to do it that way. It is good initially, it's okay. But later they realize you can't do it by copying. That's not how it works. Instead, you have to find your own proper balance, your own unique balance. That you should find, and it takes some time. But though that time that's taken, it's worth it. Right? So that's the very idea for today. It's a play with your desires. It's a play with the world. Even dealing with people, make sure that you consume or deal with them in moderation. If you are too attached to any person, let's say even your family members, very close people, if you are too much attached to them, that is not good. Even the things in your life, maybe a new car or something, right? Maybe your profession, maybe the education, those things, you have to see how much I am attached to these things. How much attached I am, right? So that you can deal with this world, you can, enjoy the world, but you have to make sure that you are enjoying it in moderation. That is the very idea, similar to how you enjoy food, right? Now, according to the teachings, usually we think that we are consuming only one type of food. That is the solid liquid food that we take, right? But according to the teaching, there are more food that we consume, right? This solid liquid food that we identify as food, that is only one type. The other things they are mental things, right? They are basically dependent on desire, right? There are a few more types that are identified, few more food categories according to Dhamma, right? One thing is, the sense doors or things that we experience through senses. For example, seeing things with your eyes, sights, sounds, right? Those things are also we are consuming as food all the time. And we are dependent for our survival on them. They have done this experiment on children. It is a very cruel experiment. They have done some years ago. They prevented mother's care from infants and they fed them with robots, right? Everything is given instead of the mother's warmth, mother's care, right? And after a while, these children, they started dying. And even halfway they stopped that experiment, but still it was too late. You can see it's not only the food for that infant, not only the mechanical heat that is generated. No, that's not enough. Instead, that little one, it should receive that mother's care, mother's love. So those are emotional factors, right? You can see how dependent we are on them. So whatever the things that we consume through these sense doors, the sights, the sounds, all those things, in a way we are dependent on them. Then our thought processes, that's another thing, right? We eat or we thrive on our thought processes. Certain thought processes are there in us. If we are not allowed to consume them, if you are not allowed to have them, you might go crazy one day, right? So that's another thing. Then the final one is identified as consciousness. That's also categorized as another food category. So this way, 4 food categories are taught in Dhamma, saying that liquid solid food that we consume, it is only one type. The others are mental factors, right? So you can see all the time we are consuming different things, whether it could be physical or whether it could be mental, we are consuming them. We thrive upon those things only. Without them, we can't survive, right? So when we practice mindfulness, not only the liquid solid food, but these mental factors, also we are mindful. We are seeing how these desires work in us, how attached we are to these thought processes, and our own unique consciousness, how attached we are to that, and our sense doors, the incoming things from them. We thrive on them. So this way, all the 4 food categories, they are basically thriving on desire. That is the very thing that will continue this process, right? So basically, we are children of desire, nothing else. The desire will get you this solid liquid food. The desires will get you all these mental type of food categories, right? So basically, it's a play with desire. When we deal with other people, we are consuming food in a mental form. When we go sightseeing, we are consuming food. When we think our unique thought processes, we are consuming food. When we have, when we experience our own consciousness, we are consuming food. Apart from all those things, when we eat, drink our usual solid liquid food, we are consuming food. All these food categories, they thrive on one thing, that is desire, right? So when you practice moderation, it's a play with desire. When you practice moderation in other people, dealing with other people, not indulging in them, that is a play with desire. When you practice moderation in the food that you consume, that is a play with desire. When you practice moderation in your thought processes, that is a play with desire. So entire mindfulness practice, it is a play with desire, our own desire, right? That is the true mother of our birth. We are children of desire. By practicing moderation, we get to see through our desires. For example, today's activity, right? We had the desire to consume it, but we waited for a while. Few minutes we waited. And as a result, we could really see the true nature of our desires. How it is not so prominent after a while, we could see, right? So that way, we can practice in our daily life, not only while you are consuming liquid solid food, but when you are consuming your own thought processes, when you are consuming these sensations, when you are consuming other people, right? So all those opportunities, they are opportunities for you to practice. You can practice. It's a play with our desires. The way is to, practice moderation. You wait for a while, you just wait with the desire and see how it goes. Sometimes you get this urge to call somebody. Without calling them, without messaging them, you can't survive a day, right? But just wait for a while and see. There's this dire need to call, right? You wait with that desire and see for a while. So this way, when we practice moderation, we get an opportunity to understand our own desires and maybe even see through them a little bit, right? So this way of practicing, maybe when you do it few years, when you keep on practicing, one day you might be able to, probably like reduce the strength of these desires. Maybe like, let these desires be weakened. That is the very idea. And for that, it might take some time, but that time is worthwhile taking, right? So that's the topic, and I think that's enough for today.
Thank you, Bhante. That was a very interesting topic and a very relevant practice we had today. So next on the agenda is the Q&A session and the reports that were sent to us being presented to Bhante. To this, we invite Panchani to start this session.
Avasarai Bhante. Hello everyone. So I think now Sonali will share the screen. Is it shared, Sonali? So Nissarana Vanaya has prepared 2 YouTube videos to guide you with your practice: mindful sitting and mindful walking. You can allocate a small amount of time daily and start practicing mindfulness with walking and sitting. You can continue until you complete 2 hours of each practice in total. You can write down your practice as a reflection report with a question or a statement. You can write it under the title Mindful Walking or Mindful Sitting. You can describe the sensations that you felt on your feet whilst walking or sitting, what you recognize as your walking and sitting posture. You can describe prominent sensations that you felt whilst walking, such as the texture of the ground, pressure points on the soles, how the body weight shifted from one leg to another. And for sitting, you can list prominent sensations such as pressure points, such as in and outgoing breath at nostrils, rising and falling of the abdomen, etc. You can email your reports to beginners@gmail.com or send as a Google form. Continue your mindfulness practice according to the advice given for your report during the session. And you can also access the recordings of the sessions available at the link given at Nissarana. Thank you, Sonali. Over to you.
You can start the reports now.
Okay. Thank you. As you know, it's my first time. Okay, Bhante Avasaraya, I will read the first report. We have received 2 reports, and this is the first of them. Mindful walking. Walked to the station on the way to work. Initially noted the feet movements and shifting of body weight. Walking felt automatic after a few minutes. Attention shifted to other things, like touch of cold breeze on the face and hands, random thoughts of rising and passing, sound of passing vehicles, while also having the awareness of the walking body. Walked for 20 minutes. Mindful sitting. Sat on the cushion in a comfortable position. There were no expectations of the sitting session or a pre-planned duration. Few cycles of prominent breath, changing to subtle breath noted. Pressure of sitting body noted. Thoughts arose and passed. Prominent breath noted. Calmness noted. Pressure on leg became prominent. Attention moved between breath and pressure in leg. Breath broke up. Pressure in body seemed to have a rhythm of rising and falling like waves. Sat for 40 minutes. Mindfulness during the day. Dull energy in mind noted at the beginning of the week. Body felt tired from jet lag, but it was manageable due to taking mini breaks to relax during the working hours. The robotic nature of doing tasks and household chores continued for a few days. Not affected by it and just observed. First year anniversary of family member who passed away is round the corner, and observed the drama that followed at the time, returning to the family system. Noticing how reactive the mind was a year ago and how unmoved the mind now is by the decisions others are making to mark the anniversary. A sense of amusement in mind noted instead of the stress felt in trying to save others from the proverbial train crash then. Happy to help be past. Otherwise, happy to go along with the majority decisions and protect the peace of mind, which has become more valuable now. End of the report.
Okay, right. Thanks for sharing. Now, the very first thing I noticed is that, it's the usual walk towards the station, right? Anyway, you are doing it. But you can, reserve this time to practice mindfulness, right? So that way we have to be skillful in our life and make sure that we are finding a way to, practice. Otherwise, you'll keep on saying that I am too busy to practice. There's very nice Zen saying, maybe Suzuki Roshi. One person is saying, I have no time to practice. Then the teacher says, okay, then practice all the time. Right? That's the idea given, right? So if you say you don't have time, then you are saying it's not important. If you think the practice is important, you can be skillful and find many slots in your life. Maybe seated in a train or a bus. Every day you are going to work. 30, 20 minutes, I don't know. Right? So those 30 minutes, you can make sure that you reserve it for the practice. We have so many such slots where we can use for the practice of mindfulness. So in this report, it's the usual walk towards the station, daily walk, 20 minutes. That's 20 minutes of mindful walking, right? So that's the first thing. You have to be skillful, and when you are skillful, you can find your own time to practice. Okay. Then the second thing is that when you are busy in a life, let's say you live in a busy world, when you're busy in life, it's a great opportunity for you to understand the proper practice. The mindfulness practice, if you are too busy, then it's a great opportunity for you to understand the proper practice, right? Usually the traditional idea is meditation, you have to go to a forest, depart from everybody. And that way you think. That is the traditional idea. People come looking for a forest. People come looking for a monastery. And they want to stay here, telling that this is the way to practice. I have to, get rid of my family members. I have to get rid of my life. That way they think. But the sad thing is that they don't yet understand the proper practice. If you know the proper practice, then you can live in a busy life and still do your practice. But I accept that initially it is really hard. Initially, with a busy life, it's hard to understand the proper practice, right? But let's say somehow you found a way to understand the proper practice, maybe within a, daily 20-30 minutes of practice, you understood how to do mindful walking, mindful sitting, and how to experiment with your daily life even. If you found the proper practice, if you know the proper practice, then a busy life would be a great opportunity for you to, put it into use, right? I'm not saying the initial part would be hard for a person who is really busy. But let's say somehow you got through that initial part, then a busy life would be a great opportunity for you to practice. Because you have 101 things to do in a day, and all those things you can do them mindfully. You deal with so many people at work, family members, strangers. So you deal with so many people. It's a great opportunity for you to practice mindfulness. So many problems come looking for you in a busy life, right? So that's a great opportunity for you to practice. Only if you know the proper way, right? So for a busy person, this practice really works. But it is hard to get through that initial phase, initial part of, understanding the practice, knowing how to practice. That part, of course, it's hard. But once you get through that part, a busy life would be an ideal opportunity for you to, execute this practice. Okay. So the remaining things are just a reflection of that. You are a busy person. You have 101 things, but still you are skillful in the practice, and you can use all these opportunities to develop your practice. That's the very idea. For example, usually people, when they are tired, they force themselves despite the lack of energy, and towards the end day they exhaust themselves. They feel like killing themselves. right? That type of exhaustion comes. But if you know your energy, if you know that you are tired today, you can take frequent breaks. Take it slow. Because today it's not an energetic day. Today it's a different energy. So you have to take it slow at a time. Sometimes when you have good energy, you can just, power through things, right? So that the mindfulness will tell you how your energy is, what to do with this energy, right? Every day you can't perform exactly the same way. That is not possible. Even, these type of programs that we do, it depends on the daily energy. Some days they are good, some days they are boring. What to do, right? Even I go to let's say, a fresh audience to give this message. Some audiences, I connect with them. It becomes natural. The flow becomes natural and they too are connected. Some audiences, it's really difficult to, connect with them. They're like, I don't know what's the wrong with them. So maybe it's wrong with me. I don't know, right? It's really difficult to connect with them. So those days you can't, exhaust yourself. You have to accept today it's not a good energy. So you have to somehow survive those 2-3 hours, right? You can't do much. If you try to exhaust yourself, if you try to power through, then it won't work. It's not how it works, right? So it depends on the energy of the crowd, energy of the performer. It's connected, right? So you have to play with the energy. You have to know this is today's energy. So with that energy, I'll do my best, right? Some other day I'll do a different type of a job because I have a different level of energy. So that way, in your daily life, you have to understand today's energy and you have to navigate according to that energy, right? No point in trying to perform equally every day. Someday you'll do an excellent job. Someday it'll be a, somewhat okay type of a job, right? It depends on daily energy. So when you are sick, when you are tired, you have to take it slow, take frequent breaks, and somehow get through the day. Those things are important parts of, mental health. Then the other thing is those family drama. You have learned a lesson from the passing away. Now it's just a replay of that in a lower energy kind of a situation, right? So that lesson you can, put it into action again and see if your help is needed. Of course, you do it, you give it. Sometimes if it is not needed, then let them go, let them be, right? So that way, these opportunities are great opportunities for us to develop our own practice. Don't take them as, troubles. Don't take them as problems. Whatever that comes to you, right? Deal with it. Take it as a part of your practice. Nothing will come to you that you don't deserve, right? Maybe whatever the troubles, difficulties, whatever that comes to you, you can use them as a part of your practice, right? Because the practice is our top priority. There's nothing greater, right? If you know that priority, then whatever other things are, they are beneath the practice, right? So dealing with people, dealing with situations, we say situational awareness, right? These days you can see so many YouTube shorts saying no situational awareness, right? People, they are lost in their mind. They don't know what's happening surrounding them, right? They get into accidents, they make a huge mess because they don't have this situational awareness, right? So these opportunities, you can take it as a part of your practice and somehow continue. That's the very idea. That's why I started saying that a busy life would be a great opportunity for you to, develop this practice. In a way, let's say the monks or nuns, they have a less of an opportunity given their surroundings, right? You feel like it's peaceful, it's so good to do your practice. But when you mature in your practice, you realize you need some troubles. You need some work in order to develop the practice, right? So that way, try to execute it in your busy lives and take each and every opportunity as an opportunity to develop your practice, right? That's the very idea I want to give.
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you for that valuable guidance. I'm sure we will benefit from it. I will now read the second report. It's a very short one. Bhante, I have realized that suffering is needed for understanding to arise. Now, when heavy emotions come, I try not to have aversion to them. The acceptance has really helped to deal with life's challenges. Now, thoughts arise from time to time that it is time to retire. As these are just thoughts, not sure whether to listen to them or not, but a family member needs my support. How do I make these important decisions whilst not listening to the thinking mind? Your feedback is very valuable. End of report.
Right. So few things. First one is that the very suffering that we experience in our life, let's say pain and suffering, let's combine them both, right? So whatever the suffering that we experience, that will lead to understanding. Of course, that is true, right? Buddha says, if there is no suffering in this world, right? If there's only pleasure in this world, then nobody would go towards the practice or the understanding, right? Because only pleasure is there in this world, right? If only pleasure is there, people would be indulging in pleasure. That's all they would do. But Buddha is saying there's suffering in this world. Because of the suffering only, people or the humans, they go towards understanding or the enlightenment, right? So that is the very source of understanding, right? When the suffering comes, that will move you towards the understanding or the practice, right? But you have to be, in a way, you have to be fortunate as well. You have to be blessed, right? You have to be fortunate. Because if suffering comes in a wrong way, then some people, they kill others. They kill themselves, right? So we have to, we should be blessed from our past lives or something in order for us to experience the proper level of suffering that is there, right? You must get burned, but you must get burned in a proper way, right? That is the thing, right? If you get burned too much, then you are damaged. You are damaged. That's why so many people, they kill themselves. They kill others. Every 80 seconds, 2 people commit suicide, right? 1 homicide. Every 80 seconds in this world, 3 people die. 2 people commit suicide, 1 homicide, right? So that's the nature. That's the thing, right? So if suffering comes in extreme degrees, in a wrong way, then it won't lead towards understanding. It will be too strong. You are damaged, right? If suffering comes in a proper way, then it will lead you towards understanding. In order for the suffering to come in a proper way, you should have merits or blessing from eternity, right? That's true, right? Then thinking, doing. Now, don't get this practice wrong. We are not saying abandon your thoughts. That's not what we say, right? Even today's talk, you can relate to this. You have to practice moderation with your thoughts, right? Make sure that, you take some time with them. right? We are not saying not to listen to them. Listen to them wisely. That's what we are saying, right? If you start listening to each and every thought in you, what will happen? You'll become a monkey, right? Monkeys are like that, right? That's how they behave. Each and every thought they follow. They go after it, right? So that's not being wise. In the other way, if you stop listening to, all the thoughts, then what will happen? You can't survive, right? Even in order for us to, consume something, eat something, for our survival, drink something, function in this world, we need those thoughts, right? So we are not in the idea of getting rid of thoughts. That's not the way. We are saying be wise with your thoughts. We are not trying to get rid of desire. When I say this, you'll be baffled, Getting rid of desire is the idea that's in Dhamma, but I am saying we are not trying to get rid of desire. Instead, we try to be wise with our desires, right? Because you can't suddenly get rid of desire. Instead, you have to go through this process of getting rid of desire, right? So that very process is being wise with your desires. That's why we said even today's talk, moderation. You can consume the food, but wait for a while. Take a couple of minutes and simply notice all these things before you consume. Don't just give in to that desire, right? So we are feeding our desires, but in a wise way. That is the way of the practice, right? Because you have to go through this whole process of practice in order to get rid of your desire. You can't suddenly magically make it vanish. That's not how it works. So that's why I am saying we are not trying to get rid of desire. Instead, we try to be wise with our desires. That being wise with our desires is the whole idea of practice or the path, right? Towards the end of your path, when you get the root or footation, right? When you get it, you'll have no desire. But that very path is about being wise with your desires, right? So we are in the path now. So that's why I'm saying, we are not trying to get rid of desire. It's the end goal that's far away, right? Instead, what we do is we try to be wise with our desires. That is the very practice of mindfulness, right? So don't try to, get rid of your thoughts. That's not the idea. Don't stop listening to each and every one of them. That's not the idea, right? Instead, we listen to them, but we listen to them wisely, right? Certain urges come. We don't give in. Instead, we let it be for a while. We acknowledge the urge, but we don't act. We wait for a while and see what happens to the urge, right? So when problems come, the problems like yours, right, whether to retire or not, all those things, right? When the problems come, right, we just don't try to suppress the problem. Instead, we acknowledge it. Okay, this problem is there. We acknowledge it. We let it be, right? After, let's say, a couple of days, still the same problem is there. Maybe then you can do something about it, right? So that's more like a waiting list. You acknowledge them, but you don't act suddenly. You put them in the waiting list. I'll address you tomorrow, right? Tomorrow also it's there in the list. Day after tomorrow it's there in the list, right? Okay, then you can do something about it. You can decide wisely, okay, I'm retiring. Okay, I'm working 2 more years, then I'll retire. Whatever the decision, right? You will know the best decision, right? So don't think that it's about, not listening to your thoughts. That's not the way. We listen to them, but we listen to them wisely. That's the very idea. That's the very idea. So you have to find that proper balance. In order for you to find that proper balance, you have to do many hours of formal meditation. That's what I am saying. Many hours of formal meditation will tell you that proper balance, right? So daily try to do at least 1 hour, 1.5 hours. of formal meditation. That will help you a whole lot in the process, right? I think there are so many people who are joining for this program who do like 2 hours of practice daily, right? You have to find your time and do it. And when you do, within a short period, you can, of course, get a glimpse of that balance that we are talking. No more written reports, right?
No more written reports, Bhante. That's it.
Okay, so today we'll avoid the verbal one. We are past our time already. So
Okay,
I have another impending program, so I might.
okay, Bhante, over to Sonali then.
Right, thank you. Thank you to everyone who sent the reports, and thank you for your time, Bhante. Yes, we will come to an end of the session now. On behalf of the organizers, I'd like to thank Venerable Dhamma Kusala Thero for his continued guidance on this program. As usual, he continued to say something that we can take home every week. And of course, we can't forget the Chief Abbot of Nissarana Vanaya, Venerable Dhamma Thero, who initiated this program. May this merit help them to improve their own practice as well. And thank you to all the organizers who are managing and organizing this program behind the scene. And thank you very much to everyone who participated via Zoom, Facebook, or anyone who will be listening later. So as usual, we will be having the session next week, 1 p.m. Sri Lankan time as well. We wish everyone a happy and mindful week ahead. I will end the session now.